money's most intrinsic value is that it gives us the ability to have control over our time, right? That's, at the deepest rooted part, money can give us control over what we want to do, what we can do. And that's obviously that comes with profitability. So you get more money.
Yeah.
Sons of CPAs bonus episode where Nikole, Nix, Mackenzie, and Scott Scarano share a small but useful piece of practical advice as it relates to running their professional accounting firm. I decided that we're going to just use words that start with P as our topics. I have to figure out why it's words that start with P, but there's a lot of good ones. And today we're going to do profitability. And last week was prices. Profitability. Good choice in topic, by the way. Why profitability?
Profitability is everything. It's the last number on your P&L. That's our livelihood. That's what we take home. That's why we run our business. It's for the profit.
The profit. That's another good P word right there. Profit.
Isn't that where, like, when I look at my P&L each month, the first place I scroll down to the very bottom, I start at the bottom and then I work my way up.
You know what I look at each month is my bank statement. You know how often I look at my P&L? I don't look at my P&L enough, and I need to.
It sounds like you need to hire an accountant.
I need to hire an accountant. Yeah. Are you taking on new clients? So this is something that I've been focusing on, ways to become more profitable. We sold our office. I know I've talked about that so many times. You never had an office, right?
I've never had an office. No, since I started Momentum 5 years ago, never had an office.
So we can't think, but maybe you can think of your team. Do they appreciate this more? Have they had office jobs?
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, I actually had one employee that is awesome, Jen. She found me through a Zero event. She followed up with me several times because she wanted to work remotely. But
so
now
something that is a huge expense line item now becomes a value add for you, for employees, right?
Yeah. Well, I feel like it used to be more of a value add, but now since COVID, I still think there's a lot of firms that never left the office, but a lot of them are offering
remote jobs. Yeah.
Remote jobs. So definitely it's not as much of a differentiator.
Yeah, it's not as much of a differentiator, but it is for me, scratch that line off, that lease, that rent payment, save some money there, scratch that off of my P&L, right? Or my expenses. So what other ways that we can be profitable? Is outsourcing profitable?
Yeah, outsourcing, I've tried outsourcing a couple times. It is less expensive, but I do feel like the clients really value the relationship with our team and having conversations with them. And so I'm still not sure on the outsourcing thing yet. I may try it again. It's really tempting to pay $13 an hour for someone.
So what we've done,
is it inefficient?
I think that's a big selling point, right? For a client to have a dedicated person or somebody that they can go to, I think that you can't replace that. And what we've done, at least, is we have 2 layers of people that they can reach out to, that they have tax and accounting person, 2 CPAs usually, but then below them, we've outsourced a lot of the work that we were doing, that I was even having them do in the past, and that's, oh man, that just looking at that line item, the difference between what I'm paying my people here versus what we've outsourced is tremendous. It's a huge difference, and the same work is getting done. So that became one of those, like, not messing around anymore. I'm no nonsense about outsourcing. I think it's part of who we are now.
Yeah, I think we definitely have much better processes now where we could plug in an outsourced solution and then just have the team members, the accounting managers, manage the relationship. And, most of what we do is managing emails, calls from clients, and just helping them with day-to-day questions. So
email. I know. I do it too. I try to rebel against email, but every time I do, it I get crushed by it. It caves in on me, and then I got like 250 emails to respond to, and I
Do you
haven't
still
checked
have
my
do you still have clients who email you?
Not me personally, and the team, they don't complain as much about email as I do. I think I just get too many emails of different sorts, of different types. I want them to be intentional about their time too, and that's a big one too. Is time, right? Like billing hourly versus fixed fee. What's more profitable? Like I'm starting to realize now that sometimes hourly stuff could be more profitable, at least to measure profitability, because time is valuable, right?
Yeah, I've found since I've moved to fixed fee billing, which I did maybe 2.5 years ago, that it's much more profitable because it incentivizes if you price it right, right? You have to price it right and you have to make sure that your team's staying in scope. But
Reference our episode on pricing.
yeah, yes. But I found that if you think about it, right, like the holidays are coming up, right? So you have a team member that may take 2 weeks off, that's going to take Christmas off, New Year's, Thanksgiving. Well, if you bill by the hour, your team's not going to be able to bill a lot of time in those months.
Well, that just means you're still, if you're still paying them, then that's not profitable at all, right?
Yeah.
So if we got to keep this on the profitability train. We don't. I mean, I honestly think yes, fixed fee can be much more profitable because you're planning. That's a big P word right there, is planning. And when you're planning the scope, planning work that you're going to do, and pricing it correctly, then you got to have some sort of controls and measures in place to make sure that you're pricing correctly and you're measuring that afterwards too. But yeah, that's obviously it can be much more profitable because the value of what you're doing is worth so much more to the person up front before they've paid for it, before you start working on it, than after.
Right. If the client's new, for example, our minimum fee is $750 a month. Some of our clients may only take a couple hours a month, right? In some months it's probably more like year end. But if the client knew they were paying $400 an hour, $300 an hour for bookkeeping services, they probably wouldn't pay for it. But
Well,
because it's a fixed fee and they're seeing it
yeah,
as an entire team and an entire package, they're willing to pay for it.
exactly. And another big one too is when you start automating things, that you can be punished for that if you're billing hourly as you get more proficient. I guess I was trying to think of a word that started with P. As you get more proficient with your processes, you don't want to get penalized.
Yeah, I always get mad if I come in and look at a client and they don't have technology integrated or they're doing something manual because I know at the end of the day that's taking them more time, so it's cutting into the profitability. You know, Michael, my brother, we use him for any projects that or anything that's being done manually, we'll bring him in and have him do some coding to automate it. So we're always just looking for ways because we're billing a fixed fee, we're incentivized to automate as much as possible.
I got so distracted because I forgot your brother's name was Michael, and you have so many Michaels or Mikes in your
So
life.
many mics.
I
It's
have
true.
so many Janes in my life because Juana's name is Jane in English, and my mom's name is Jane. My grandma's name is Jane. Both her daughters are named Jane, so both my aunts are versions of Jane, Mary Jane and Jane. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm surprised we didn't name a daughter Jane.
Yeah. Well, that's why a lot of these, Pilot and all these other firms we're now seeing they all have engineers, right? They're
Yeah.
all billing on a fixed fee and they have engineers and they have the engineers that come in and
Is an engineer a data analyst? Is that the same thing or is that something different?
I mean, engineer can mean a lot of different things. It could be manipulating data and making things more efficient that way, or building out custom applications between if you have multiple apps that you're using and they don't connect natively, you can have an engineer come in and build out the API between the two apps so that the data goes back and forth. I imagine that's what those engineers are doing. They're probably building connections between apps. They're probably
I love the sound of that. That could be the key to unlocking more profitability
I
is
think it is.
data analyst or an engineer. So I
I
think
think so.
that's
I mean, a lot. I will sometimes go on and just look at different accounting firms' websites, and I'm starting to see more and more data analysts job postings and engineer job postings at accounting firms. So I think that's definitely the future. And
You
then
got a leg up on that.
yeah, and then when it comes to reporting, right, you got to do a plug for Reach Reporting because we love Reach Reporting here at Momentum.
We love Reach Reporting here at Sons of CPAs.
What we're trying to do is automate our reporting process and our delivery process so that it's not this every month trying to manipulate reports. It's just automated. We can send those. And so that, again, comes down to saving time, increases profitability.
So talk about looking forward and not backwards, because it's hard for a lot of accountants to look forward and plan for a client. How do you measure how effective a team member is or isn't, right? Like what are some of the ways to compare them? And if you're not tracking time and you're not doing things to see in comparison, relatively speaking, you don't know how much time somebody's spending and how much they're working, or if somebody takes longer at doing something than another, how do you measure those things?
Right, because every team member works at a different pace. Usually when you ask somebody how long they think something's going to take, you just triple it because you don't account for the time that somebody interrupts them. They have to go to the bathroom. They take their dog for a walk. They eat lunch. They get emails, interruptions, and then all of a sudden the day's gone and they've done.
Well, that circles us back to having an office or not having an office, right? Like sometimes that could be not as profitable, even though you're paying for the rent. Them having a place to go where it's a closed environment and they're not, it's not even possible to get these interruptions or different things that come up.
Oh, well, I disagree there. I think when I worked at an office, I got interrupted so much. I'm way more productive. I wake
That's what
up,
they say too.
I can go straight to my computer, work independently, and all of our meetings are scheduled now. Think about like before when I worked in an office, when you wanted to talk to somebody, you went into their office, you interrupted them all day. Now, if you want to talk to someone, you have to put it on their calendar. If someone wants to talk to me externally, I send them my calendar link.
We have office hours.
That's good. Oh, what do you all go on Zoom together?
So we have on Google, like or it's on our calendar.
Oh, I like
Everybody
that
has
office
two
hours.
sets. Yeah, it worked great. So we have two sets of hours each week where it's an hour blocked, and you just hop into that person's office hours with anything you need to go over with them. And now everybody's trained and ready to. I don't need to slack them about this. I can just add it to my list of things to go over with them on their office hours.
I kind of like the idea. What do you think about office hours where everyone, would that be awkward if everyone just went on Zoom?
So we do that.
Hour a week at
So
the
we
same
do
time.
that. Well, okay. So we call that our tea days. We have one today, like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they're together days. We have an hour where we just all get on a Zoom. Now, usually it's not that work related, but there are things that come up. We have announcements. Usually what we do is we just have a daily, a question that we go over. And today's was, if you can go back to any point in time in history, where would you go? And why? That's it. I use that too. I use it. Is that no? Those are icebreakers. I have table ones. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's and I have a stack of those by my computer.
Yeah, we do a weekly team huddle on Mondays, and everyone just goes through and talks about what they're doing that week. But I felt like that allowed me to know what was going on, like a really summarized way to know what was going on. And then if anybody has any challenges or issues, or if someone learns something, they can talk about, oh, I learned how to do this in Gusto, or there's this weird thing with the ERC credit.
So I think office hours are not scheduled where anybody else has to be there. What it is a way for them to, they have it on. They basically, a lot of them just keep the video off and they have their headphones on or they're doing something, and then somebody else pops in. Okay, they're ready to go or whatever. And then you just pop out when you're done. So it's like pop in, pop out. So I think going back to the office thing though, you don't have, you have kids, but they don't cry and yell and fight and anything. Like just just I'm hungry. You have kids that you can more or less put food in a tray, and even they can shit without you even having to take them out or anything, right? Like,
Yeah,
you just
I
throw
do
them in
have
a
to
little
clean their
tray.
litter box once a day. It's really time consuming.
You don't have
Yeah,
to go out and walk your cats.
no. They're so easy. They do everything
So
by themselves.
you have a quiet environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike is pretty quiet too, and that's that's an advantage that you have at your home office, but not everybody has that. So, but the
What
kids were off
about
school today. They were off of school for no reason. It's just a teacher.
Hey, what about times when it might make sense to not be profitable?
That is my life right now. I'm rethinking my life though. So times now, what do you mean by that though?
Well, there may be times when you want to invest into the business. Maybe you have really high growth goals, so you decide you want to go hire 3 really, really good CPAs, get them trained, and basically staff up before you get client work.
Yeah. Well,
Or
that
maybe those
sounds
CPAs will go do networking and get clients, or you wanna build out a different service line, so you wanna invest in that. Or you wanna sell your
Are you
firm and
thinking of offering a service line?
I am not thinking I would offer HR services before tax.
Yeah.
I decided I don't think I'll you may, in 5 years come back and play this recording back to me, but I don't think I'll ever offer tax services. But
I
who knows?
respect that. I respect that. That's starting to become a touch and go for us. We don't have a ton of individual tax anymore. Like I haven't given up on the individual return, but we just, basically just bundling everything. So your tax, your accounting, all of that's included in the monthly price. But investing. So going back to investing in your team, that's a planned. That's a planned move. Like you gotta, you gotta be able to weather a storm with that and have some reserves and be able to do that, especially if you have a small team and you're looking to grow a management team and to grow, departments in your business and become a lot more, process oriented. And we use EOS. So we have an accountability chart and different departments or areas of the business, and everybody has a role. And I realized that, doing that, these are people that can't do a lot of client work. They don't do any. So I have two guys on my team that aren't doing any client work, but one is very much focused on operations and back office, and another one is front office. And then, you've got a team underneath them, so you get it.
Yeah. I mean, and those are the people that keep the firm running, right? Those are the people that save the rest of the team time. And so as you grow, your operating costs stay the same, but your gross profit keeps going up.
Right.
So it's good to have that invest, I think, in that foundation.
Well,
Get you
investing in that foundation is so important, and you slowly become more profitable. Then, yeah, like you said, like it'll become exponent. I mean, it's not like a crazy like a software company. It's not going to scale, but you'll eventually hit a point for capacity. And measuring what that capacity is beforehand kind of allows you to pull the levers behind the scenes.
Yeah, when I think about our firm, so I have a director of operations. I, for a while, had an engineer on staff to help automate things. And I don't do much client work, and I'm thinking about hiring an assistant. And so we're basically have 4 client-facing people, but just trying to leverage their time as much as possible so they're not getting dragged into any admin work or client issues, right? If there's a client issue, Ashley can jump in, my director of operations can jump in. And before, when it was just me and my first employee, it was us doing everything. But I think it just frees up the time, frees up the team to just focus on the client work.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
short term, it costs more money, but long term, it's just so much better
Yeah.
having that freedom and space to think about things as a CEO.
So
Uh,
freedom, that's what you're paying for. I traded off profitability for freedom.
yeah.
And they shield me. When I say that, they, like my team, they shield me from a lot, almost everything. Like I don't even know what's going on in the firm. I'm so far removed, and I don't know how I feel about that. Like now, I kind of do want to, crank things up, and I don't know what to do. Like I go in there and I'm just like, How can I help? What can I do, guys? No, we got this. Can I
Yeah.
do anything? Can I like I feel worthless. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. But then your firm's going to keep growing and you're still going to be doing that. And then you're going to be right back at the same profitability you were before you made those hires.
It
So
will be
it's all going to
exciting.
be worth it.
I'm ready to get there. Well, we're profitable now. Like I think we're only at like 10% now. I'll talk about our numbers, but we used to be 40%. And that's kind of my goal. I'm setting the goal, and I've set it this year to become 45% profitable. And I know realistically it's probably going to be in the high 30s or 40. But if we can be 40% profitable, I think that would be, I think that's more important than top line growth. Definitely.
So that's interesting. You were at 40, you're at 10 now. And so you're obviously doing something, right?
1.5 million
This
right
is a
now.
good example of you obviously did something to make yourself to a conscious decision where you knew you weren't going to be profitable, but it was for a long-term profitability. So what did you do?
We hired two new CPAs. We invested in the team. I paid everybody a lot more too. So that part of it was just giving everybody more or less like profit. Well, it's not a profit sharing plan because I was sharing on the top line revenue. But one of my rocks this quarter is to figure out a way to give people bonuses based on profitability. And that's, I still haven't even gotten down to that. I got 2 months left to
Do you guys
work on
have
that one.
do you guys have a 401k?
We do. Yeah.
Do you know you can do like a profit sharing through the 401k as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I tend to shy away from traditional methods, and until I've exhausted anything else that I can do creatively. And if I can't do something creatively, then I go back to a traditional way of doing things, and that's okay. That's kind of why we track time now. But being very profitable was at a cost, and it cost me my time, my personal freedom. I didn't have that much freedom to do as many things as I do now. Go to Mexico or just go hang out with you guys.
What Will Lopez used to be like
Yeah, yeah,
pre-Gusto.
free gusto. I do what I want, and there's costs to that. It's like trying to figure out what's right for you as a firm owner and what you're comfortable with, and kind of plan around that. And there's a lot of different things you can do these days now to become more profitable or or less. Like I didn't choose to be less profitable, but that's just
Well,
got to happen.
that was a strategic decision, right? To be less profitable, but there's a reason for it. When it's bad is when you're not profitable, but you're trying to be profitable.
Oof,
That's a problem.
and that's where hopefully people are able to get out of that. And if you've always been in that and you're working 80 hours a week and you're looking at the bottom line and it's just nothing there, there's some root problems, there's some core problems in that firm, and it takes some outside eyes looking in too, I would think.
Yeah, and I think people are afraid to raise their prices because they think people will leave. But what's going to end up happening most of the time is your bad clients will leave, your good clients will pay the extra. You'll be doing less work and making more money.
Yeah. So do less work, make more money. I think that's
Yes.
there is no key to profitability. We could talk about this for days. Is it because you want to have, to be able to have that financial freedom? I think money's most intrinsic value is that it gives us the ability to have control over our time, right? That's, the deepest rooted part. Money can give us control over what we want to do, what we can do. And that's obviously that comes with profitability. So you get more money.
Yeah. What I decided is I just decided how much I want to take home, what my goal is. And then from there I backed into, okay, what's the revenue I need to make based on the profit? And everything else will go to my team. So as we do better, if I'm making the money I want to make, then everything else will go to them. So our profit will probably always be the same because I'm sharing it with the team. So as we do better, they do better.
But there's a predictability factor there too. Like you have a lot. I mean, again, if you're operating intentionally, then you have a predictable amount of, just a predictable year. We can't see the future, obviously, but knowing I have a good idea the way things turn out. Thanks, Nikole.
Thanks, Scott.